Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Annie Talks. I am your host, Annie Rivera. As some of you know, I have a YouTube channel named Annie Rivera. You can find it at www.youtube.com/c/Annie Rivera. If you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and be sure to hit the bell right next to the subscribe button so that anytime I upload a video, you'll be notified. Now, on my show, I have a series called Celebration Awareness, where we celebrate uniquely, oddly, annually, nationally, and worldly celebrated days. For instance, on National Aviation Day, I spoke with a drone operator who told us about FAA guidelines and restrictions, and he also taught me about basic instructions on how to fly a drone. On World Juggling Day, I spoke with a professional juggler who demonstrated easy techniques on how to juggle, and he even taught me how to juggle. So, about a month ago, we celebrated National I Love Lucy Day on October 15th. I had the wonderful pleasure of speaking to a friend of mine. This is a friend from way back in my high school days. I'll introduce him shortly. So I was watching this video back today and I thought this would be just a wonderful piece, and it's just much too good not to make into a podcast. The information is timeless, as I Love Lucy is, and I haven't met a person who didn't like or love I Love Lucy, or that did not, for any reason or another, find him or herself laughing from an episode, if that made any sense at all. It truly is a treasured show and a pioneer of so many TV styles and techniques still used today. I hope you enjoy this podcast and listening to all the great pieces of information you may or may not already know. There are quite a few visual components to this podcast, so if you'd like to see them, be sure to check out my YouTube channel. And now, here is my conversation about National I Love Lucy Day. Today, we're celebrating National I Love Lucy Day, and I am here with my totally good friend, high school friend, Anthony Eredia. Anthony, thank you so much for welcoming me into your home.
It's an honor and a pleasure because I love you.
Yeah. Anthony and I go way back. Let me just tell you.
Not too far back.
So today is National I Love Lucy Day, and I could not think of a better person to spend this day with than with one of the aficionados of I Love Lucy. One of many of I Love Lucy. I thought I was a big fan of I Love Lucy, but Anthony has me beat. He knows every single line from every single show, and he is a much better aficionado than I would be. So I am so excited to talk to Anthony today. So let's get started and let's delve into the world of I Love Lucy. Question number 1. How long have you been an I Love Lucy fan?
I've been watching her since, as far as I can remember, 4 years old. So doing the math, 45 years.
Wow, 4 years old. Oh my gosh. What about Lucille Ball and the I Love Lucy show do you like the most?
Well, what I like about most is that when I'm feeling down and out, all I have to do is put on an episode and it'll make me laugh. You know, it comes from deep within, and all of a sudden all my troubles just go away. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen it, I'm still cracking up.
Have you really truly seen every single episode?
Yes, that would be all 180 episodes. That includes the pilot episode, which a lot of people have not seen. Incidentally, she was pregnant with her first child at that time, so she's covered up a lot.
Right.
And the Lost Christmas episode, which they aired several years ago and colorized it. And a lot of people don't know that the 13 one-hour episodes that came after I Love Lucy is part of that 180 plus.
What did I tell you? Hello, aficionado. What are some of your favorite episodes?
My ultimate favorite one would have to be Lucy Does a Tango. After that, Lucy Goes to the Hospital. Lucy Does an Italian Movie.
Oh.
Lucy and John Wayne Parts 1 and 2. And Everybody thinks that the Lucy Does a Television Commercial is the best one. I like it. It is one of my favorites, and I'll put that at the end here, but it's not my ultimate favorite.
Talk about your first favorite.
Lucy Does a Tango.
Yes.
This is when she's in the country.
Right.
This is when her and Ricky have migrated there, and they're doing business with the merchants. They're raising chickens to sell eggs. Well, the chickens aren't laying any eggs, so Lucy and Ethel decide to hide about 5 dozen eggs on their person, on themselves, and try to casually go and place them to make it believe that the chickens have laid eggs, so their husbands start fighting. Lucy and Ricky are getting ready to perform the tango in front of the PTA, so they're practicing. So just as she's covered with all these eggs inside her flannel shirt, Ricky's upstairs, says, "Let's practice," and she says, "Oh no, we don't need to practice. We don't need to practice."
Okay.
So they practice, and if you know anything about the tango, the finish is you connect bodies, and when that happened, all the eggs just cracked in her. Now the reason I love that the most is for several reasons. It is the longest studio audience continuous laugh in history. I timed it again last night just to make sure. I thought it was 90 seconds. It's actually 82 seconds.
Oh.
So think about people having to laugh, or people laughing for 80 seconds continually.
Right.
That was her very best.
And then you said something, we talked about this earlier, because it was all uncut.
Yes.
So her reaction was very, very fresh.
She refused to rehearse it. They did not rehearse it. When they did rehearse it, she rehearsed with balls.
Right.
You know, but she wanted her facial reaction to be authentic. And if we think about the craft of an actress, she had to ad-lib for 80 seconds as people are laughing to make it seem like it was part of the script. Her expressions are great, and that one is my favorite one for that and many reasons.
If you know anything about I Love Lucy, she would like rub at the bottom and she would go.
Okay, and then poor Ethel, she has them in her hip pocket, and then Fred opens up the door and then all of her eggs crack as well.
What is one unique I Love Lucy paraphernalia that you have in your collection?
It's an interesting artifact. Before I started collecting I Love Lucy, I decided what I would collect.
Right.
So back then, I had joined I think it was the Columbia House Club. Remember that? From way back then?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're dating ourselves.
Oh my gosh. Okay, for you young ones, you probably don't know what that is. Okay, look it up, Google it.
So I had a conversation with my mom. I said, "Mom, I want to join this club. I get to get an I Love Lucy VHS tape every month with 3 episodes. Can I do that?" Because legally I couldn't sign a contract.
Right.
So I would get these every month until I had all the episodes. So that was my most prized possession. But we all know what happened to the VHSs, right?
Yeah.
So I had to decide how I was going to replace that. So I started collecting the Blu-ray. My intention was to collect the entire series, and I still will, but I realized that technology was growing so rapidly that there was a better way to collect I Love Lucy. So I purchased the entire season on digital form, because now, wherever I go, I take Lucy with me.
Is that available on
iTunes?
On iTunes.
On
So
iTunes.
available on iTunes. A shameless plug for iTunes.
So I get to watch her on my iPad,
Oh, my
on my
goodness.
phone.
Yeah.
When I travel, now I get to take her everywhere. So who knows what I'm going to fill down? I always have her ready available. So that's my most prized possession.
Oh my gosh, technology has really advanced since when we were kids. Wow, Columbia House. I cannot believe you still remember that. This is a good question. If Lucy were sitting here right next to you, what would you tell her?
I would thank her for the legacy of laughter that she's left, and I would tell her how inspiring all of her episodes are. I would have so many questions to ask her. I would ask her how she managed being a studio head of her own company, as well as being married mother. I mean, she did it all.
Right.
You know, the reason we have live studio audiences is because of her.
Right, and she incorporated the three camera
Technique,
yeah.
And the reason the audience was there is she performed better in front of people.
Right.
So Ricky, well, I should say Desi, had built bleachers in the studios for them to perform, and they were free all the time, which is why they're still free today.
Right. If Desi were here, if Ricky or Desi were here, what would you say to him?
I would say that he was my first role model. On TV, there were not a lot of people that looked like me, people of color, especially men. And when they spoke Spanish, in the episodes, that was my household.
Ah.
We had Spanish and English spoken, so I related it to myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why our parents had to sit down and watch it as a family, because they wanted us to see that there was media out there that resembled our family.
So who got you started in watching I Love Lucy?
My dad. It was one of the very few shows we were able to watch as a family, because he would pick family time for us, and he loved Lucy himself.
Was he as much as a big fan as you are now?
Yes, but back then you didn't collect things. There wasn't anything that you could buy.
Right.
You know, I believe when the series was happening, there was merchandise. You could buy comic books, colored books, paper dolls, and stuff like that.
If Lucy were your best friend, what hobbies would you two have?
Oh, okay. I know that she loved to cook and bake, and I do too.
Okay.
So I would love to do that with her.
Yeah.
If we were besties, I think we would trade recipes and we would trade
right.
techniques. We would probably trade Latin dishes, because I know for a fact that she learned to cook a lot of the Cuban dishes that Desi liked a lot.
Right. You probably wouldn't get anything done in the kitchen because you'd be having...
Oh, we'd be gossiping. Oh, yeah. I would be the Ethel to her Lucy.
For sure. You and I had a conversation, and you mentioned that there was an episode to everyday scenarios.
Yes.
Explain that.
All right. My belief is that every life experience that we have had or will have in the future is related to one of the episodes, one of the 180 episodes. And I always tell people this, and I ask them, I challenge them, tell me your life experience, and I will relate it to an I Love Lucy episode.
Does she ever want to go back to school?
When she's pregnant with little Ricky, she decides that they weren't speaking English well enough. So she hires a tutor, and they all go back to school in a classroom setting in the living room. So much so that Fred dresses up as a little boy Blue-like with a little lollipop.
Ricky had me cracking up the most because I think he was mimicking the way in which he heard.
Ricky was saying the vowels in the way that he understood them, or the way that he was taught in Spanish. In English, ours are A, E, I, O, U.
Right.
In Spanish is A, E, I, O, U.
Right.
So his pronunciations was different, and the teacher, where did you learn that strange pronunciation of vowels? And he says, I studied Spanish, and I learned English in Cuba. What's your excuse? So those are two episodes that we relate to going back to school.
I challenge every one of you guys to see if you can stump Anthony. So why don't you put your questions down below and see if we can get an answer from Anthony. Ha ha ha.
There was something that I always wanted to do.
Okay.
When I was in Paris, Richard and I, we reenacted famous Paris scenes from the different movies. But there was one that I wanted to do by myself. If you know the episode Lucy Goes to Paris, where she's eating snails.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I ordered escargot for the first time, and Richard took my picture, and I put it next to actually Lucy's picture. So that was one of the things technically on my bucket list.
Oh, very nice. That's so cool. Thanks for sharing that nugget with us. I love it. What one takeaway do you want viewers to know about I Love Lucy?
What, just one?
Okay, several.
Okay. But for those of you that enjoy comedy, especially the comedies that we see today, you have all that to thank Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz and Desi Lou Productions. Comedy is what it is today because they were the pioneers, you know. So when I say a legacy of laughter, a legacy of comedy, they really were the pioneers. And something that a lot of people don't know is that every day, every hour, Lucy is playing somewhere in the world.
Ooh, what a nice trivia.
You know?
That's awesome.
And it has been syndicated in more languages than any other television show in history to this date that I know. And there are not a lot of shows that do that anymore.
So today is October 15th, the National I Love Lucy Day. Do you know what year her first airing was?
1951.
So if you don't already know the history behind I Love Lucy, you know that Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz formed their own studio or their own production company. What was it named?
Desi Lou.
Desi Lou. Isn't that a very clever combination? Desi
And Lou.
and Lucy.
And it does mean both their names put together, but what a lot of people don't know is that Lucille Ball's middle name was, wait for it, Desiree.
Oh.
So actually, if you think about it, the entire company name is her name.
Is her name. Wow, that is... I didn't know that. Something I learned. Something makes you go, That's it, everyone. I truly hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast and learning a little bit more about the I Love Lucy show. I think you'll all agree that my friend Anthony is indeed the unofficial aficionado of all things I Love Lucy. If you want to see the video and all the cool things Anthony talked about and some of his prize paraphernalia, check out my YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/C/Annie Rivera. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to my podcast and get notified when a new episode is uploaded. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Annie Talks.